Yo, 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 what is going on? It is Shawnee Football with some Week 10. Not really reactions. I really wanted to talk about some teams that are contending and pretending and sort of everything in between. Since we are sort of at the mid-tier point of the NFL season, a lot of teams have been able to sort of separate themselves and look like they're either contenders or pretenders. I sort of want to skip over more of the obvious teams. If we look over here, we can look at my power rankings for this week. I think the top 10 teams are pretty self-explanatory. They all look like they're poised for the playoffs. That includes the Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars, Bengals, and 49ers and Lions. I think the Cowboys and Bills are still in that conversation as well. Some of my friends who are big Bills fans are already starting to lose hope, so I feel bad for them, and I think that there is still plenty of NFL season to go. But let's get into some of these teams and why I think, or sort of just which direction I think that they're going, and how I could see the rest of the season playing out for them. So starting things off with the New Orleans Saints, and it actually seems like they've sort of found their groove with Derek Carr leading the way. After some early stumbles, they're definitely poised to take the NFC South and potentially make the playoffs. They're in a pretty bad division when it's really all said and done. The Panthers are one of the worst teams in the league. The Saints are looking pretty good. Bucks and Falcons are both, I guess average, slightly, yeah, just average really at best. Baker is doing his best with the Bucks, and they've had their ups and downs, but don't really look like a formidable force come January. And same thing with the Falcons. They've been a fun team this year, but ultimately, I don't think that they can get things done. Their season hasn't really gone as expected. I'd actually say that they've been better than expected, but with a lot of quarterback issues with Desmond Ridder and some defensive struggles, it's really tough to see them hanging around and making a playoff push. But going back to the Saints, they're looking pretty nice. They're sort of this year's Cinderella team and have had some ups and downs, but ultimately have been able to carve out some wins. Carr, Kamara, and Olave are definitely fun on offense, and they have a pretty good defense, or at least secondary. So hopefully that can edge them out enough wins and get them a spot in the playoffs. A pretender I think I see is the Minnesota Vikings. They have actually been a feel-good story with Josh Dobbs starting last week. And they've actually been significantly better than I expected with a 5-4 record up to this point. After losing Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, they've been pretty resilient. I don't know if it will really remain throughout the season, but we will see how they do. I think that is the Lions' division to win. So if they can sneak out a wild card spot, then great for the Minnesota Vikings. And maybe they have a potential quarterback controversy on their hands going forward. If Dobbs / Jaren Hall looks pretty good, maybe they move on from Kirk Cousins. With the Bills, this is sort of where I'm sort of on both fences. The Bills are a good team, I think, and Josh Allen's been playing really well this season. A lot of analysts and experts picked the Bills as their Super Bowl team for the AFC. I don't know if that's going to happen, although if they make the playoffs, I think anything can happen. with this Bills team. They do have a couple tough weeks up ahead, facing the Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs, and Dallas Cowboys. But if they can etch some wins out and make a playoff spot, then they're definitely a scary team to face, considering they will most likely have a um, lower seed. Moving on to the Houston Texans. Who thought that we'd be talking about the Houston Texans? And I love my guy, D'Amico Ryans, and they really seem like they're building something special with CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. CJ Stroud looks like he's him. Like, he's really been playing incredible this season, and has to sort of cancel that Ohio State quarterback's narrative. He very much looks like he is in this league to play, and has really elevated the talent around him. I mean, I liked Tank Dell going into the season, but I didn't think he was this good. Same thing with Nico Collins. He looks like he's a top 10 receiver this year. So really impressed with what the Houston Texans have done in year one with D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud. Currently have a 4-4 record. And who thought that we would consider them in the playoff conversation? Honestly, they're in a relatively weak division. I like the Jags to probably win their division, but after that, they can very much edge a wild card spot the way things have been going and the way things have been trending. I really just hoping that the Houston Texans can continue this vibe, and maybe even get CJ Stroud in the MVP conversation. As ridiculous as that is, I think he's been playing much more than just Rookie of the Year. But we will see, or Offensive Rookie of the Year. But we will see how things trend out as the season progresses. Um, do, 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 do. Moving on to some pretenders, and I want to lead things off with the Chargers, who have shown just inconsistency. Justin Herbert's recent struggles are definitely a cause for concern. Brandon Staley team definitely needs to find a rhythm if they want to be true contenders. I feel like they're really only just beating up on bad teams, like they should, but then when they're playing real competition, they seem to be struggling. It's great that they have a win over the Jets, and they're definitely getting some pass rush with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, but I don't know if it is sustainable against good teams and better quarterbacks. I like Justin Herbert and I like the offense, but they are missing Mike Williams. And I am just not so sure about the development of Quentin Johnson. He just hasn't really shown me much. And I had low expectations for him going into this season. I thought he was a reach in the first, but a lot of other people like his, uh, I guess, physical attributes and ability. I just didn't see him contesting balls very well despite his size. And, I think he can do better on 50-50 balls and just effort. But in general, I don't think that the Chargers are a real formidable team. Even if they do sneak into the playoffs, I think they are an early round exit. Would love for Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley to prove me wrong, but until then, that is my stance. I think I alluded to this earlier when I was talking about the Saints, but the Atlanta Falcons, I think, are pretenders. They are 4-5, and despite having the quarterback change with Taylor Heineke, which I do like a lot, I think that they just have some deficiencies and will struggle. They will probably have about a 500 record at the end of the season, probably go 8-9 or something like that, and which is still a significant improvement on last year. But I don't see them making the playoffs this season, and if they did, they would likely get out in the wild card game. So I love Bijan Robinson. I think that they are poised for a good team in next year. They're just definitely trending in the right direction. add a couple more pieces in free agency and the draft, hopefully get their quarterback of the future. Probably makes them wonder what they could have been if they traded for a guy like Lamar Jackson, which was definitely on the table. Lamar on this team, they definitely could have at least had 10, 11 wins. But despite that, they maybe will look at a guy like Shondor Sanders in the draft this year if he's available. I doubt that they will be able to get a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May, but we will see in April. Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think that this is also a team that is a pretender when it's all said and done. While the Raiders have found some new life under interim coach Antonio Pierce, their early season struggles may have dug them a little too deep of a hole to make a playoff berth in a competitive AFC. Now they do have a 4-5 record, which isn't so bad, but I just don't think that this one-game winning streak is sustainable. And we'll see. I mean, there's definitely a lot of talent on this roster, and a fresh dose, a fresh voice, and new coach is definitely going to add some juice to the team. But I just don't see them winning more than 9 games, and in the AFC this year, I think that won't be enough. So moving on to the Colts, it's pretty much the same issue. The Colts have some positives, including a decent run game with Jonathan Taylor and Mack. However, the absence of Anthony Richardson really limits their ceiling and their overall potential. Like I've said multiple times now, the AFC Wild card race is going to be pretty fierce with the Bills even just having a fighting chance for it. So I don't think that the Colts will be a playoff team when it's all said and done. Moving on to my last team, which I think actually has a decent chance of being a contender despite losing players and having a losing record. And that is the Washington Commanders. And they've made moves for the future. And despite that, I still think that they might have a chance. They have a tough schedule ahead, and their point differential and competition within the NFC still make them I'd say, wild card chance. Sam Howell definitely keeps them in games, and they're a fun team to watch, at least on offense. Their defense is significantly depleted now that they traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So it'll be interesting to see where they get their pass rush, if they do, or if their defense can keep them in games. But right now, with a 4-5 record in the NFC, they don't look so bad, especially with the Cowboys losing this week and the Giants looking pretty beat up. So I don't know. Maybe Sam Howell sneaks into the playoffs with a 9-7 record and just ruins all of Dan Snyder's and Magic Johnson's hopes and dreams. Just kidding. Anyway, that's pretty much what I've got for my Contenders and Pretenders show. I know that this was about just 15 minutes or so. Hope you like the mustache. Don't know how long it'll last. But check out my pretty much scheduled NFL content that's been coming. I'm definitely working on some content to sprinkle in between, but as of now, so far, I have been doing my picks on Thursday afternoons, with results usually released on Monday nights or Tuesday mornings, depending on what time the Monday night games get done. I like doing my betting shows, mostly talking about the money lines, which I'm making my picks on. Definitely like to talk about the spreads and the points, overs, and unders, as well as some player props and team props sprinkled in here and there. Definitely check out my weekly power rankings, which are released on Tuesdays. And then I also just have some NFL picks previews and updates sprinkled in with the week. So check that out. Peace, love, and happiness, and we'll see you next time.